Do you remember HAL in 2001: A Space Odyssey? While not the first AI character, it is the first one many of us do remember. The Matrix and iRobot drove home the idea that smart robots might be a bad idea. However, data from Star Trek The Next Generation showed us AI doesn't always end up on a human annihilation bench. R2D2 and C3PO certainly showed us how fun and clever it could be. Whether from books, comics, movies, or television, we've been given apocalyptic warnings about the dangers of AI as well as hopeful evolutions of human like artificial life forms. We should certainly practice responsible and ethical development of machine learning and artificial intelligence, but the movies have missed the mark. The technology we've been entertained by is not what we are actually talking about with AI in business. Dr. Sadovykh holds a Ph.D. in Information Systems from University of Auckland, New Zealand, and is a leading expert in emerging technologies for small businesses, including artificial intelligence. While studying IS, she discovered and researched human decision-making and became fascinated by what she was learning, how people think, how we influence tech, and how it in turn influences us. As she became deeper engaged in understanding the progression of humanity and technology, she found herself deep into artificial intelligence. Now, well on her way to becoming one of our foremost philosophers on responsible and ethical AI, she's already a thought leader and mastermind in her fields. She is going to help us to better understand what AI is and is not, and why now is the time to start implementing AI if we haven't already. Please turn your attention to Dr. Valeria Sadovykh.
So, good afternoon, everyone. First of all, it's my pleasure to be here and to share my thoughts with such an outstanding audience of entrepreneurs, business professionals, and futuristic individuals. Thank you, Chris, for the introduction. All right, so recently AI has to deal with lots of myths and misconceptions. I think for the last year of COVID and isolation, everyone just went mental about AI. So I do want to make first of all, a disclaimer. And disclaimer in terms of terminology. AI is interaction with your human cognitive abilities. When we're talking about the business operations, I don't think we're really using AI to that extent. So hence, under the definition and terminology of AI, we should be thinking about machine learning models, deep learning. Basically, it's Excel spreadsheets on steroids. So I do want to simplify the things for the people to remove the first misconception about AI. Today, I want to talk about the first, probably the main 5 themes of questions I get asked on a daily basis from my clients, from friends, from everyone around me in regards to the AI. First of all, is AI is expensive. Second, AI is complex, time-consuming, and difficult to implement. AI is only used for big tech giants and to be utilized by big technological companies. AI requires lots of data, and we don't have that data, so we're not going to even bother. And the last one, and the most common one, I have a problem. I'm just going to get AI into place, and I'm going to solve all my issues, and it will replace all of the people after that. So let's dig into each of them, and then at the end, if time permits, we will have question and answer sessions. So I will welcome all of your comments and all of your questions as well. So first, AI is expensive. While it's expensive in terms of tools, infrastructure and resources. It's expensive, and hence it can be only afforded by large multinational organizations. Well, let's step back. AI implementation does not require to spend beyond your means. The design and development of the model itself depends on the problem you want to solve. If the business wants to solve a simple business optimization, efficiency, some sort of data extraction, manipulation problem, it shouldn't be that expensive. The first fact, if we want to just automate a process, it shouldn't cost you a bank, right? That's the first thing. The second thing, there is a huge demand for efficiency, effectiveness, data manipulation, chatbots, virtual assistants. So there are hundreds and hundreds of the solutions available out of shelf. When the demand grows, supply also grows, and the competition comes into the place. So there is an ability to find a cheaper solutions that specifically solve your problem, but the businesses needs to understand what they're trying to solve. And that's something we will also talk about it later on. Another thing about the AI is any technology project, And AI is a technology project. Machine learning, implementation of machine learning, deep learning, it is a technology project. Every time business get involved with a technology project, they should be thinking that it should be self-paid projects. Self-paid is not necessarily it's going to return the same amount of money, but it should return some benefits, whether it is intangible or tangible benefits. And this is the example of improving the efficiency, improving the accuracy rate, complying with the governance procedures, increasing the customer retention rate, as well as intangible benefits of market manipulation, market analytics, good customer brand, and so on. And the first is one of the first things what organizations and businesses do, they start entering the phase of automation. And that's actually important. Automation considered as one of the first things, kind of a foundation before anyone can join AI and machine learning, because it provides you the base to enjoy the efficiency, enjoy the data manipulation activities, and have something in place in order to proceed further. So that's the first one. AI is not necessarily should be expensive, and we should be mindful how we implement technology problems and what solutions are we trying to solve. The second point is that everyone talks about and everyone is just putting their hands up is it's complex, it's time-consuming, and difficult to implement. It requires some sort of unrealistic skills in terms of the data scientists, technologists, product owners, and so on. And it's not for us because we are small family business oriented. We don't need it. Well, once again, it depends on what type of problem you're trying to solve, right? And do you have the right technology strategy and framework in place? Do you understand where AI will be positioned? What is it going to be surrounded? How is it going to be integrated in the business? How are you going to integrate it with your people, with your customers, with your processes? I think this is the main aspect. If any business owners go through this exercise, they will understand that complexity is not about the complexity will be breaking down into different small steps. So once again, we need to think big. We need to think as the strategy. However, we should be executing small. We should be starting small. Then sometimes we can start with automation. We can start with RPA. Then we can add additional machine learning or some sort of NLP, data extraction. So then we can integrate these components and actually make sense out of them and iterate and continuously learn. That will make the journey much more simpler and easier, and also will get our people, our employees along the way. And that's one of the important things, because we can bring as many technology as more expensive tools and lots of different consultants in place. But if we don't have our people buy in, it's never going to work, and it's going to be complex, and it's going to be difficult to implement, and it's a fail. So planning for AI is essential. Like a planning for anything else you execute in your business. The same as the strategy and the framework. And I think it's a basic business foundational aspect, and AI is not different to it. It's another technology implementation project. The third misconception goes as AI is for big tech giants, and only for people who understand in technology, who can code, who knows what Python means, who even at least can run Alteryx models. Every time when I hear this sort of assumption that only big people can afford it or only technology smart people can afford it, I always somehow start thinking about 12 and 13 years old TikTok and Instagram influencers who are using AI probably on the everyday business or everyday life, and they make an impact. They use it so efficiently, so effectively, and they make a really good amount of money out of it. So as you can see, it's for everyone. It's already in our everyday life. It's in our cell phones, it's in our Gmail, it's in our Google Docs. It's everywhere. Another point that small businesses need to consider is there are up to 31 million small businesses in the United States. What does it mean? That nearly 47% is of workforce, US workforce, is represented by small businesses. So no way in the world we're going to kind of miss 50% of opportunities of enhancement, operational effectiveness, and efficiency of our people. So once again, the demand is there, and the supply is also being at the same level. So, and it's obvious that if big organizations can benefit from operational efficiency, effectiveness, improve their sales, maintain the customers, clients, do data manipulation, do insightful decision making, what is it different from small businesses that can use nearly 50% of the American economy? So just bear in mind. And once again, one thing I do want to kind of bring up in insights, because people quite often are scared of something they don't know. And as I mentioned, the supply is there. There are lots of different vendors. There are expensive vendors. There are medium-sized vendors who provide different type of solution as per business needs, whether it is marketing, whether it is HR, whether it is operational efficiency. Again, so go and talk to them. Go and find out from technology professionals what is AI. Talk to them about your problems. Talk to your competitors. Talk to your other people in the field who will provide the shed and light what is out there in the market that can help you to solve your problem. And you will be surprised that those solutions are not going to cost you a bank. And those solutions not necessarily going to be complex. And those solutions will be easy to implement. But once again, be quite clear on what you're trying to solve and what is your end goal. What is your roadmap for 2.5 years? How do you want to transform digitally? What type of processes do you have in place that you want to, for example, automate? And also bear in mind that if you've got a broken process, automation, AI is not going to help. You need to start even from the beginning. You need to look into your business process before you can tap into the technology world. The fourth one is also quite interesting and a bit of actually controversial. There is an idea that AI can operate with lots of data. Only when you've got lots of data, you can train machine learning algorithms, you can do the right data inputs, and once you go as a magician, you're going to get the great output, and it's going to help you to solve all of your business problems and make the smartest decisions ever. Well, one thing small businesses underestimate in their operations is they focus is much smaller. So the market segments is smaller. So what does it mean as well? So they don't need that much data for AI to be used. Another point about the smaller businesses, they're much more careful with the way how they capture data. They don't have so much legacy systems in place. So hence, it's much easier for them to do the work with data manipulation in order for them to feed the data into the machine learning and then learn out of this data. So once again, rubbish in, rubbish out, right? So we need to be quite careful. What are we putting in? So that's one of the things we have to keep in mind. I'm not too sure, but I can see that the screen got lost. Are we still on track? All good?
You're still good.
Still good.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah. Sorry for saying again. Once again, lots of data. Not necessarily we need a lots of data in place. That's first. But then second, it's not about the quantity. It's actually about the quality. And the small businesses have much more advantages to provide a better quality data as an input in the machine learning mechanisms that can further provide a quality output. AI's got a wonderful ability to learn from the data, but not yet is capable to actually forget the data, right? And forget the wrong decision making. So hence, we need to make sure that whatever exercise and data manipulation we do before we provide it into the machine learning mechanism, we are quite careful. That's one of the aspects of the lots of data required. Another point about the data is not all of the data should be provided by your organization. There are lots of sources that you can use publicly available data to make sense. You can use your competitors' data as well to make sense. You can buy the data nowadays. So you don't need to come up with the data and provide the data. There are services available for this as well. So everyone just needs, again, conduct the relevant research and don't be scared to tap into this. And actually see what the data they have and what they're trying to solve. And the last one is the one I really love talking about. It is AI will bring immediate results and will replace humans straight away. Well, as per previous comment, AI requires data, and AI requires a learning time. So it will be a lag time from the moment you actually integrate AI technologies into the workforce and before the results is going to come. Because AI is like a human, they also need to learn, but they need to learn from the data. They need to learn from their own mistakes as well. So bear in mind, be patient and go through the journey with your AI mechanism as well and learn it the same way. Also, don't forget, if you're gonna, even with automation, even if you're gonna automate the process, you will need to have time for your own people to get upskilled, right? For your own people to know how to use the automation, and for your own people to also start gaining the benefits from this automation on whatever you be using, or data extraction, or some sort of manipulation, or CV screening for HR system, or customer relationship management tools. Whatever we have in place, it will require adjustment around it from the infrastructure perspective, from people perspective as well, and from our processes too. So the immediate results is not going to be there. It's not the overnight process. It will take time. And that's where we've got the strategy in place. And that's where we will need to have the right framework in place, where we'll also can define what do we have for the new technology project to be a success, and what do we need to get on the way. And then the last one, replace humans. Well, AI was not built to replace humans in the first place. It was built to help and support the human cognitive decision-making processes, right? So there is no way that after all of the data manipulation, data insight, and data analytics that we're gonna provide, the humans got nothing to do. No, they actually will be required to do more due diligence work in reviewing this data and actually making the actual decision, which might be easier, might not necessarily easier, but it should be enhancing. It should be providing a better quality, and perhaps it can actually even provide more insightful information. So I think that's why people should not be even thinking about replacing of humans or replacing of the workforce and so on, but actually thinking how they can use AI in a better way to make their life or job more competitive, more interesting, more insightful, more different than others. So that's one of the most aspects. Use AI to differentiate yourself, and not use AI only because someone else is using it and you think it's relevant to you. No, try to make it useful for your own problem solving. So this is probably my main 5 findings that I found from the conversation with different people, from academics, from just people in the technology world, from clients as well. And I do want to summarize it as AI is not always expensive. We can find different ways of implementing AI that is not going to break the bank. It's not complex, time-consuming, and difficult to implement if you've got a strategy in place and if you've been thinking about it throughoutly. And it's not only for big tech giants, it's for everyone, and it's already part of our everyday life. So if you're not using it, there is something wrong in that it was a necessity yesterday. Today, it's too late. So you already should be halfway through. And once again, it's not about having lots of data, but having quality data in place so we can have our AI much more smarter. And it will not bring immediate results as you think. It's not a magician. It's not going to be an overnight. It will take time, but the results will worth it. And 100% sure it's not going to replace human beings. Otherwise, we won't be here and we'll not be talking through each other through Zoom. So I guess it's for us to conquer the new evolution, technology evolution, and enjoy the benefits of AI. And on this note, I kind of looking forward to your questions and would love to answer them as well.
Thank you, Dr. Sadovykh. We appreciate that. So
Thank you.
later this afternoon, we're going to have a session about using AI for sales and marketing and how that adapts to a small business. So while we wait and see if anybody has any questions from the audience, what would you be most focused to recommend that they pay attention to when they're listening to that session and considering whether or not their company should be thinking about AI tools for their own marketing sales? What's the most prominent, important question they could be asking themselves during that session and trying to put that into perspective with their own business?
So I think the first one is, what is my problem? What I'm trying to solve, right? Whether it is a competition, or do I have a customer retention problem, or I want to get a new market segment. I think that's the first thing. They need to define clearly what they're trying to solve, because there are, once again, there are hundreds of solutions in place in the market that can help you with anything, whatever you want. But I think the problem is you might create more complexity by introducing new technology, by introducing new processes, new operations, and then it will become complex and time-consuming activities. So I think what is, again, and coming back to the basic, right? What is the strategy? What are we trying to achieve in the end? And how can I get to there by smaller steps? Maybe the first one, it will be just analyzing the marketing data, right? Analyzing the competitors to see what is my competitors doing in order for me to influence my product development, and etc. Or maybe it's something to do, how do we use email campaigns more effectively and efficiently? So then again, the question will be, what are the other competitors doing, right? Am I going to use the same approach? Do we have the same customers? So I think it's good to know what others are doing, but I think we need to be quite clearly on what are we trying to solve.
Okay. So, and part of your miss is you got to really, you got to have a strategy and plan. Let's say that somebody has gone through and already put this into place and they've discovered they did it all wrong. How do they recover from that moment?
I think there is nothing wrong with doing everything wrong.
Sure.
Because first of all, if they even done it, even if they stepped in and they realized that it's possible, that might be it. Even understanding, even going into automation, understanding that automation might not work because my business process was broken, that's the first step, right? But at least knowing the path and understanding it will be much faster and cheaper next time. And I don't think it can be everything wrong. It's never nothing.
I would hope that we can't do everything wrong, but when you're,
but it might be the place. Yeah, it might be the place. Not the right process was automated, right, and not the right data was captured. Yes, but then again, you go back and you relearn, and it's normal. It's the same with software development lifecycle. You always iterate. You iterate and integrate. You design, you build, you go back and you rebuild. It's the same thing.
And small businesses can be terrified of technology, and they can be very confused by what technology is and isn't, but what they should try to be thinking about that. And we're making it clear, AI is something you need to be thinking about. If you've not already implemented it, you need to be actively working towards implementing it now. Don't wait any longer to get started. But what's the most common question that you've discovered, the most common thing that small businesses don't know that they should be knowing?
Again, that's why I said, let's just be clear on terminology. Because AI, sometimes we don't need AI in the business, right? Like most of the businesses require some sort of operational efficiency. And most of the businesses require the right data analytics tools in place in order for them to improve themselves and make smarter decisions. So I think that's the first thing I think about misconception. Or I wanna introduce AI into my services and products and things like that. It's not an introducing AI, it's introducing different components of AI. And I guess that's the problem what the people is missing, right? That it's smaller bits. It's Excel spreadsheet on steroids. Sure.
So if we wanted to give a relative analogy, then cognitive services, machine learning, and those various components that make up that's going to be the strawberries or the oranges or the apples. But then AI is the category fruit. Would that be a fair?
It's a huge category, right? That incorporates machine learning, deep learning, automation, some sort of different components of this. Exactly, right. And
so really, when you're thinking about, oh, I want to employ artificial intelligence, you need to be thinking about that term, artificial intelligence, in the same context as, oh, I'm going to go to the store and get fruit. And if you send somebody to the store to get fruit for you, you need to make sure that you're telling them which specific variety of fruit you would like.
Variety of fruit, yeah, exactly.
Okay. So that's where
that's
we really
actually a really good analogy, yeah.
Okay, fantastic. So is there anything else you'd like to add in closing before we wrap up in a minute?
No, but I guess it's one thing again is AI is probably the same as any other technology implementation project we have in place. It's just different. It's a different name, but we all went through that. We had radio introduced, we had cell phones introduced, we had internet introduced, and now we've got something else a bit smarter being introduced in our life, and we can't just wash away and say, hey, I don't want to use it, right? Or I can survive without it. Unfortunately, there is no way to survive in the business without it. And
Right.
I just want everyone to bear in mind that we have to encounter it.
All right. Well, thank you, Dr. Sadovykh. We very much appreciate everything you've done, and we look forward to seeing you through the networking events.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Chris, and thank you, everyone.